Yo, what is up? You have found We Like the Blazers. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Whitty Whitledge, and the dancing man over there taking what I normally do to this intro music is one Mr. Brandon Goldner with some beautiful hair, and he didn't die on a run. So there's that.
Yeah, I didn't. Hi, Ryan. Yeah, I went on Hi, how are you?
Good.
I've been going on these long runs once a week, and I have been not good about getting the right amount of if you go on a long run, you need to have enough water and you need to eat enough beforehand. And I was 2 hours in and I was near the end and I bonked. I was getting dizzy and lightheaded, so I had to walk. And I told Ryan, I'm like, I gotta be late because I was going to be quicker getting back home because I was going to run, but I was walking. So anyway, didn't die. I'm fine.
If it makes you feel any better, I went into my foreman's meeting today at work, and when they're like, is there any safety concerns? I'm like, I don't know if it's a safety concern, but I'm fairly certain that I pulled a muscle in my chest. They're like, oh, what happened? How do you do it? I said, it was during stretch and flex in the morning. The thing that you're required to do to stretch yourself out so you don't hurt yourself. It was the arm over the head, full hold for 15 minutes. I was felt a weird pop in my chest. I was like, oh. And then I coughed and it hurt. And I turned my head and it hurt. And I was like, yeah, no, I definitely just popped a muscle or did something there on my left side. Either that or I'm having a heart attack. And I was like, so I don't know if you guys want me to fill out a form or not. And they're like, no, because on these forms, we're supposed to be able to say what's the preventative measure. And technically the preventative measure for pulled muscles is stretching.
That's unfortunate. It's always unfortunate. Yeah. You're trying to do the right thing. And then
that's how you know when you're getting old. Yeah, when you injure yourself during the preventative maintenance portion of your day.
Not great. I did unrelated. I also tripped during my run, which now here's the good thing about that is that I tripped, I ate shit, but I have this water bottle that it hooks onto your hand. It straps onto your hand so that you don't have to hold it the whole time. And when I hit the ground, it hit the water bottle, or else my hand would have been completely messed up by the road. My leg got it pretty bad. But two old guys pretending not to be old. We could talk about that all day. I'm even at that stage of my life where I'm bleaching my hair. I'm definitely going through some kind of a midlife crisis or third of a life crisis. How old are people living nowadays? But you know who else is going through a crisis, Ryan? The Blazers fan base. On all levels. And I know you want to talk about that. What are we talking about today? You're the one who did the work.
We're gonna wrap that show with this fan base crisis, but we're kind of we're going sporadic in the off season. The draft lottery is next week, and so we figured we should probably attempt to talk. Find some time in our busy schedules. I'm fitting this in before my son's soccer game in an hour and 45 minutes or so, but
keep it tight today.
Well, let's start with a little bit of there was some fan base fervor. The news broke during the week that Joe Cronin was officially announced as the Blazers GM. They have taken the interim tag off of him. Details of the deal weren't in the Blazers press release, so we all had to rely on the Woj tweet. No word yet on who is feeding Woj his information now that his number one mouthpiece is no longer with the organization, in all shame. But 4-year deal. And that lines up now with the rest of Chauncey Billups' contract. If you want to look at that, Jody's looking to sell the team. There's still a little bit of a friendly thing for if a new owner comes in, he has time to kind of look, survey the landscape, decide if he wants to keep a coach, keep a GM, all that fun stuff. But the interim tag has finally been removed from Cronin's name. And I personally thought that this was a no-brainer. Duh. Everybody was just kind of waiting on the announcement of this. We all thought it was going to happen. But then when the news broke and it was that they didn't conduct a search of anyone else or anything, or even try to look at other candidates, everyone got out their pitchforks and their Molotov cocktails and decided to go to town and with their Twitter banter. But what was your take on it when that news came down?
I got out my salad tongs and my wine coolers because so I was like mildly upset specifically about that point about not interviewing anyone else. I don't understand that. And I know some people are like, well, look, if you knew that Cronin was your guy, then why would you put other people through, through the rigors of doing an interview if you're not going to hire them? I have two responses to that. One is that maybe in the process of interviewing people, maybe you do find that your mind has changed, that you're compelled by somebody else and that your thinking does change because nothing is set in stone. And the other thing is that you then have something to compare Cronin against. And I mean, a job interview, the Blazers know Cronin well. He's been there for a really long time. They know his work. They know him extremely well. So I'm not, it's not about that. But in a job interview, especially for a position like this, I'd imagine that you're articulating your vision for the team and what you do. I just think that having that contrast would have been useful. It just would have been useful information at a minimum. And I don't understand why they didn't interview anyone. So that's how I felt about it.
I think the minute that they handed him the keys basically and said, hey, you can take this thing for a test drive, and he got to oversee, trade deadline moves, especially the trading of CJ McCollum, who was literally the second pillar of the franchise for the past decade. That I think the only malfeasance on the franchise is that as soon as they let him do that, they did not remove the interim tag. Because I don't think you let an interim, if you even have an inkling that you might go a different way or whatnot, handle those moves, handle that kind of tear down of your franchise to enter this rebuild, retool, whatever the fuck vernacular you want to use. You don't let an interim guy do that. You interview people and have them say, okay, this is on the table. How are you going to fix it? Here are the pieces that you get to move. But the other thing too, and this is a topic, we'll loop back around to this here in a little bit because it goes for everything dealing with this franchise right now, is that I think because of when O'Shea was fired, the names that were attached to a possible GM search by Shams and Woj were attractive names to the fan base. And so to still have like in the back of their mind, like, oh, hey, we could get this guy from Toronto. We can get this guy from Chicago. All these smart people. Somehow maybe Spoelstra will still come here, even though his Heat are leading in the East and just clinch their series.
Flight logs show that Vulcan's planes were going to Miami. I mean, just saying.
God. Yeah.
I think I legit think they made a pitch. I think they made a pitch to Spoelstra.
Oh, I guarantee you they made a pitch to Spoelstra, and the minute that Spoelstra turned him down, they were just like, all right, well, that was that. All right, we're good. But it's just, I think there was a lot of fan fervor and buildup and then anger after the fact for, once again, something that was well telegraphed and well known that then people get mad about after the fact, but they didn't have an issue with it leading up to it.
Well, and you
that's
have
a lot of like the backlash you're seeing.
Yeah. I agree. And you have this portion of the fan base who were not happy with Joe Cronin right at it. Well, you have a portion of the fan base who got really vocal after the Pelicans pick didn't convey to the Blazers and saying, oh my God, Cronin's terrible. He traded the team for blah. And I don't think it's a surprise that there's quite a bit of overlap between the people who are defending Neil O'Shea and the people who are now crapping on Joe Cronin. We're going to leave that aside. But like, I don't mind the hire. I think the hire is fine. Again, like the organization has worked with him for a long time. They know. And also, I think it was
years, I believe it is. Yeah. You have 16 years of a body of work, and the organization itself, like I know a lot of people want to throw shit and they're like, well, he worked under O'Shea. So like, we want to crap on O'Shea, and, apparently Cronin's a salary cap guru, but let's go back to the summer of 16. So that was Cronin. Well, we all know O'Shea was a fucking control freak. And for all we know, O'Shea was like the sane voice in the room trying to talk him off the ledge. And O'Shea was just like, oh, okay. And then left the room and did whatever the fuck he wanted to do. So this Cronin's time to shine.
I'm curious, actually, that dynamic, because in a healthy business environment, if you're the top person, you have people around you who do work and they do analysis, and they disagree with you from time to time, right? You listen to those voices, you come to a decision, and then everyone supports it, even if it wasn't their preferred route. I'm actually curious the dynamic under Olshey, if there's any room at all for dissent. And my point being, did Blazers ownership get to hear takes from Joe Cronin that were different from Olshey? You know, like, I don't know, like, for example, summer of 2014 and the decision to ship off Batum and not re-sign Matthews, and, you know, to basically to get rid of Robin Lopez after LaMarcus Aldridge decided to leave. I'm just curious, was that how Cronin wanted to go, or maybe not? You know, like the decision to not trade CJ McCollum, is Cronin like, hey, maybe we should consider it? And Olshey was just like, so I'm just curious in all that, how much the Blazers ownership got to hear Cronin's voice, and if he ever was a voice of dissent. But I don't think we're ever going to know.
No, that's that backroom stuff where it's like,
that's
hey,
proprietary.
Yeah, Sean. No, and those are the kind of things where it's like, if you ever, like, as a fan, if you ever do get a chance to meet or talk to some of the beat reporters, you know, it's fun to sit down and share a beer with them from time to time, or like team employees, because they do somewhat spill the beans if, you know, you have a relationship or a friendship with them, and you hear some backroom stuff, and here's how this went and here's how this went, but, you know, if I can't say it was off the record, blah blah blah. So
what are you trying to say, Ryan? Come on,
I know some shit,
spill it on your own podcast. Actually, don't break the trust of people who are trusting you.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna not say, or not say. We'll let
You're not going to not come on your own podcast and not soft flex that you know some shit that I don't know, and you hold it over my head, which I fully support, by the way.
He was fired for being an asshole and creating a toxic work environment. So if you're going to shit on your employees and maybe not listen to them and throw their ideas under the bus, you know, if they are maybe a voice of dissent, you know, that could lead into such an investigation.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not to get too far into this, right? That's true. Not to get too far into this, but also that Cronin survived, you know, Chad Buchanan, Rich Cho, Neil Olshey, even I think one GM in there that I'm missing. I mean, you can't, like, if you're surviving multiple administrations, it's
Kevin Pritchard. That was the one you're
Pritchard. Thank you.
Pritchard hired him.
If you're surviving multiple administrations, so to speak, which happens, by the way, in business and happens in politics too, then it doesn't mean you can't ever dissent. It means that you have to be the type of person who will fight really hard for what you believe. But as soon as a decision is made, you back that decision just as hard as you were fighting. And if you don't do that, you're going to get cut. So it doesn't mean that Cronin was like a yes person. Doesn't mean that Cronin agreed with everything that all of his predecessors did, because that just is statistically unlikely. So anyway, I don't know. I'm fine. I wish they would have interviewed more people. They didn't. It's whatever. I don't think there's really anyone who was available who would have been better anyway. That's the big thing. Like, what, these people who are pissed off, who would you rather have had? Who would you rather have had? I mean, name the person, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, and it's like, you could throw contract dollars out there, buy people out, do whatever. But like, you touched on it a little bit too. But like there's 30 of these jobs in the league. There's a very small, tight-knit circle. A lot of GMs share agents and whatnot. So if you do and it is blatantly obvious, which I think in this case it would have been, if you do a sham series of interviews and waste a GM's time or waste an agent's client's time, that's going to damage the reputation of your organization down the road. And so I do think that, like, and especially in these tight knit circles where there's only 30 individuals who can have these jobs, you know, you waste the time of 4 guys, even though everybody knows you're going to give it to the guy that you already have that interim label on. You know, that creates bad blood. Maybe that shuts the door for, you know, the more qualified candidate 5 years down the road from taking this job. Those are all things you have to consider. And that's in sports, that's in business, in politics, to tie all that shit in together.
It's actually, as you were saying that, I hadn't thought about this before. The Blazers kind of just did that with their coaching search, right? And you had at least one coach, Becky Hammond, who didn't seem to be too pleased about she didn't say this, but being tokenized essentially in the coaching search. The impression was that she wasn't super happy about that. So yeah, I mean, and if Olshey was set on Billups the entire time, maybe that did rub people the wrong way. Interesting dynamics. I mean, final thoughts on Cronin. I mean, are you up, down, plus, minus? Like, how do you, like, no opinion?
I've been fine with it. I've been fine with him so far, but I'm also judging a guy based on the fact that so far he has opened the puzzle box. He has dumped all the pieces out. And right now he's in the process of, finding the four corners as a starting spot. It's,
that's a great analogy. Yeah. That's what's happening.
Yeah. And so, like, is he, I can't judge him yet because we're still early in this process. Let's see how let's see how the draft goes. Let's see how free agency goes. There are expectations, whether they be realistic or not, for next season. So let's cross that bridge. I'll judge him. I'll give a final answer in December. If, he's chewing on puzzle pieces and eating them or losing them in the couch cushions as he's going along. Yeah, I'm going to be a little judgmental and trepidatious about this. But, if he starts snapping these things together real freaking quicker than a lot of people expect, and we're getting a full picture of this, then I'll be happy. But right now, you can't judge shit. The man's still finding the corners.
Yeah, it's so hard to, like, take the long view when your team's best player is, like, running out of prime. Because I think what I would like to do is say he needs at least, like, 2 full seasons, maybe 3, because you don't even know if the Blazers do get a top 4 pick. And I do want to talk about those lottery odds, by the way. I don't know if you had that in there, but I just just refresh people's memory, because lottery is coming up, as you said. But you can't even judge. Oftentimes you can't judge even top picks for years. I mean, sometimes you can. I mean, if they are a super duper bust or they're a star right away, but oftentimes players take at least a couple years to get to where they're going to be. And it's hard to judge somebody on their evaluation skills, right? Until that has shaken out too. So yeah, I'm fine with it too. I'm fine with it. Wish they would have interviewed people. They didn't. Oh, well, let's see what happens.
Slight pivot. Can I ask you a question? Just random. What was the overall opinion around NBA fans and league executives and NBA media of James Harden and his game and his playing style 2 years ago?
Right. Yeah. MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you say that Dame's getting up there, realize that there's about a 16 to 18 month age difference between Dame and Harden. Not saying that Dame is going to go into next year.
How dare you, sir? First of all,
an MVP candidate. But I'm just going to say, if you're going to start throwing out that Dame is getting up there in age and he's washed, comparatively, look at other people when they were his age in the league and nobody was sniffing about it. You got Steph Curry, you got James Harden, Chris Paul back when he was that age years ago. All those players, I'm just saying, with modern medicine, can we stop calling 31-year-olds like they're fucking 72 and geriatric?
First of all, you just compared Damian Lillard to James Harden. I'm ending the show. I'm hitting stop on the recording. How dare you? I'm offended.
Up until a month ago, that would have been a compliment. But now the man's fat, washed, and won't jog past half court, but still continue on your tyrant.
Does your sweatshirt say Houston Rockets on it? Does that say Fear the Beard? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were a big Harden stan. James Harden doesn't take care of his body. That's honestly like what so much of this comes down to. I know injuries, like he has a hamstring thing. Okay, fine. But, he doesn't take care of Damian Lillard probably has taken better care of his body than virtually anybody. We see what he does during the off seasons. We see how seriously he takes that. So Now, I know that wasn't your point. I'm just being silly.
But you just helped make my point. So thank you.
Right. Fair enough. But yes, I know, like, And also, Steph Curry, for example, like he's still great. He's not the player he was 3 years ago, and that's okay. Chris Paul is great, but boy, his last couple of games have looked bizarre. And like, is that just because he's getting older? I don't know. Like, it's true. Like in the NBA, you get to 31, 32, and you're not. That's when you start declining generally, unless you're like a very small select handful of players. Like again, Chris Paul, amazing late career. LeBron James comes to mind. There are some people who can continue
Udonis
playing.
Haslem, who's still doing it at 41.
What? He's not even playing. Come on, man. But like, I don't think it's unreasonable to. He's still on the team, sure, but like, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that. Oh God, Damian Lillard's best years are probably behind him at this point. That sucks. It doesn't mean he can't be 95% of what he was, and that could be good enough if the team is good enough around him. And that is speaking of puzzle pieces. Joe Cronin, the puzzle that he's Neil Olshey, the puzzle. Okay, here's
wow,
Neil.
That was quite the fucking roller coaster.
Yeah, I know. Hang on with me. Neil Olshey had a puzzle that had big pieces and lots of different distinct colors and was pretty easy to put together, but he kept trying to jam these
6 pieces. It had 6 fucking pieces. My 2-year-old could have done it.
He tried to jam these 2 pieces together that they wouldn't fit, and he kept turning the one piece and rotating the other one. Joe Cronin, what he has now is a 1,000-piece puzzle that's basically a one-color gradient. There is like no room for error. It's going to be so hard for him to put a team around Damian Lillard that's better than that LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicola Batum, Wes Matthews, Robin Lopez team. It very well may be that will be the best team that Damian Lillard ever plays on as a Portland Trailblazer. That sucks, but that is Joe Cronin's challenge. And it's, I don't care if you're Pat Riley or, name the best GM in the world. Like, that's a tough puzzle to work with. That's all I'm saying.
Want to know something funny?
You love James Harden?
People that could be up. No, fuck no, I don't. I just love the fact that he is a strong supporter of the sex trade industry. Anyways, no.
He loves strip clubs. That's fine. Again, like NBA players, you have to take care of your body. That's sort of important as a professional athlete. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. But no, what's funny, realistically, if you were to look down some people that are available in free agency this upcoming offseason, if you think that was the best team that Damian Lillard has ever played on, you could put them all back around him.
Yeah, you could. I mean, and now they're all 36, 37.
Do you want the washed Robin Lopez, LaMarcus Aldridge, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum, Damian Lillard group?
At a
reasonable price.
Speaking of Lopez brothers, it has been we're way off topic now. It has been so fun to watch Brooke Lopez out of back surgery coming out and suddenly is like he can defend in space. Where the hell did that come from? Even in his best years in Brooklyn, he was not doing that. I mean, he was never a defensive player, and now all of a sudden he's like a key piece of a potential championship team. Anyway, whatever. Joe Cronin, congratulations. Good for you. Some people are going to be mad about it because they love Neil Olshey, and the sun rises and sets. That's the way it is.
Yep. And the wind blows and my knees hurt when it rains. But next little bit of news that came out was in one of the cutest little videos I have ever seen is little Dame Jr. announced that his dad was going to be the Trailblazers representative at the draft lottery, which I actually think is some gigantic freaking news to come out. Previous reporting, I think
gigantic?
Casey and Brooke. Yeah, I'll get to it. But Casey and Brooke on the Blazers Balcony podcast had been kind of bringing this topic up for a little while and like who should represent and yada, yada, yada. And I think Casey was pretty steadfast in his belief that Damian Lillard had plans that he was going to be out of the country and wouldn't be available. And so they were wondering, who should go and whatnot. But so I was a little shocked to actually see the news. But the reason that I think it's gigantic is because with how this organization has had to take this turn into this rebuild, retool, whatever vernacular you want to fucking use, for your franchise centerpiece that so many other people in the league think is not interested in what's going on and not interested in the rebuild, how many other superstars in this position franchise players, face of their team, 10 years into the league, are going to go represent their team at the draft lottery in front of the entire media landscape and fan base of the NBA that's going to watch it. I think the fact that Dame is doing that speaks volumes to how he feels about the plan that the organization, whether that be Cronin, Cold, by some miracle of God, Jody Allen, has pitched to him, and him throwing his support and his backing behind it. I think that's big, because he could have easily said, nah, I'm busy. Send Ant, send this guy, send fucking Blaze the Trail Cat. I don't care. But instead, he's actually taking the time to go and do this and be the face of a draft lottery selection for a team that he's been trying to lead to a championship for 10 fucking years.
Yeah, I think it is. It's big it shows again that despite the direct comments Damian Lillard made about you need to build a better team around me, that he is fully invested in this team, in this city right now, but fully invested in it right now, which I think that is important. The fact that it basically signals, to your point, it basically signals that Damian Lillard was okay with what Joe Cronin did. He was okay with not tearing it down, but like he was okay with tanking and thinking that was the best chance to put a better team around him here in Portland. I do think it signals that. And I wouldn't say I think it is a big deal. It is a big deal. It's not surprising to me.
It's a big deal PR wise. I should say that.
I think PR. I think it, and I do think it means. I genuinely think it means something that if Damian Lillard were fundamentally not okay with the direction the team were going as of now, right? He wouldn't be there. He just wouldn't. No. So I think that says, as a snap, I'm trying to temper it. I'm trying to not, he's going to retire here. As of now, he's okay with it. I do think that's a big deal. Speaking of, and yeah, that video of Dame Jr. was super cute. Speaking of the draft lottery really quick, can we go over the odds? Because we had talked about this before, and I have learned something now that I didn't know before. And it's this.
What did you learn that you didn't know? Because I want to see if I knew it. And then I will laugh at you because I knew I'm smarter. No.
maybe we talked about it and it just didn't feel like I knew it, but that the Blazers have way less chance of staying at 6 than virtually every other outcome. I guess I didn't really realize that. So except for number 5, they have a 0% chance at number 5. Correct. Right. But what that means is, as far as and let me when you're watching the draft lottery, which is this upcoming Tuesday, the 17th, at what real time?
Quick, if anybody is listening to us at 5 p.m. Our time,
5 p.m. Pacific.
5 p.m. Yes, 5 p.m. Pacific, which I totally thought it was going to be at 4 and be at 7. But if anybody is in the Vancouver area and wants to make it to downtown Vancouver, Penalties Sports Bar and Pub, lovely guy, Joey, that I know, owns that place, massive Trailblazers fan, just disregard all his Atlanta Falcons football gear. But he'll be showing the draft lottery. I will be down there imbibing in some drinks. Hopefully a lot of celebratory shots after the fact, but anybody's welcome to come down and join me for that.
What's the name of the place one more time?
Penalties Sports Bar.
Penalty Sports Bar in Vancouver. Go check it out. But here are the odds of the Blazers getting certain positions in the draft lottery. They only have a 9% chance of staying at 6. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, they have
No.
Yep.
Hold on. Only 9% to stay at 6?
Oh, sorry. It's even less. It's even less than that.
It's less than that. It's 3.2% to stay at 6. 9% to get the number 1 overall. And I just messed up my whole flow because I was going to skip that for a second. But a very small chance of staying at 6. Meanwhile, they have a 20% chance of ending up at 8th, which would suck. They have a 30% chance of ending up at 7th, which would suck. And then they have a 37% chance of ending up at the top 4. And then, to your point, 9% of number 1. But what that means is this. 37.2 for top 4.
37.2. What comes after the 2? 0.2 what? Percent. What's the decimal number after that?
They only give me to that. We can just say 8, 9, 6, 4. Actually, no.
3.14159. Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just making that up. My point is this: when you are watching the draft lottery on Tuesday at 5:00 Pacific, if you're watching it and they get to the 8th pick goes to, and it's not the Blazers, you're like, whoa. And then they go, the 7th pick goes to, and it's not the Blazers. At that point, they have a much, 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 much better chance of getting a top 4 pick than they do of getting that 6th pick. So you can begin pre-excitement panicking if they make it past 8 and 7. And then if they do get 6, it'll be like, God damn it. But like, seriously, like you can start to get really excited after 8 and 7. So I don't know how quickly.
And I believe they cannot fall farther down than 9th mathematically. So you're not even concerned about 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10. Now,
thank you. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So there's that in all of that going on. And so, yeah, it's when you get to 9 is when you really want to start paying attention. You don't want to see them at 9, 8, 7, 6. That's kind of a wash. But if you haven't heard them at 6, there's no chance for them to get 5, and that means top 4. So order a celebratory shot at that point in time. I would also like to point out as well, with the old draft lottery odds, when the Blazers got the rights to not draft Kevin Durant and excelled at not drafting Kevin Durant. They knocked the not drafting Kevin Durant out of the park. There was only a 1.7% chance that they ended up with the number 1 overall. So I know a lot of people play around on Tankathon. They sim the lottery. Here, I got it up right now. I'm going to press the button and just see where we fall. And look at that. Portland dropped down to 7th. This thing sucks. I'm going to light everything on fire.
So wait a minute. Just to correct the record, according to Tankathon, the Blazers do indeed have a 0.1% chance of the 10th pick. But that's...
Oh, okay. So it's down to 10, but that's...
0.1%, a 3.7% chance at 9. Really, you're looking at 8 and 7. There is a 50% chance, 1 and 2, that they're going to get either 8th or 7th. So if they make it past that, it is much more likely that they're going to get a top 4 pick than they will get 6th. Like you said, they can't get 5th. And I think generally what they do is they move somewhat quickly until they get to the top 4. They take a commercial break, and then they bring the people. I don't know if they're going to do that again, but I'm remembering the Greg Oden years. And by the way, Ryan,
I want to say it's normally top 6 or 7, but
fair enough. In that case, during the Greg Oden lottery, they went through 5, and they're like, all right, we got the top 4. It was the Hawks, the Blazers, and 2. I can't remember the other 2. But pop quiz, Ryan, who was
top 4? Hawks, Blazers, other 2. Sonics, obviously.
And
I don't know.
Well, okay, yeah, fine, whatever.
I just couldn't believe
yes, I should have known the Sonics. I should have known the Sonics. That's fair. RIP to the Seattle Supersonics. Pop quiz, Ryan. Who was representing the Portland Trailblazers during that 2012 NBA draft lottery? No. 2000. What year was Oden drafted? 2008, right? 2008. Is that right? 2007? 2008? 7? God, I'm such an idiot. Sorry. Ryan, pop quiz. Who is representing the Portland Trailblazers?
The answer to your question is Brandon Roy.
Correct. And I just have to say that now we have Damian Lillard, the team's best player. So, as far as
if you want good juju, Damian Lillard was selected with the 6th overall pick, and right now Portland is sitting with the 6th best odds. So why not?
I have a weird question for you. Would you rather... That's not a yes/no question. Would you rather the Blazers get the number 1 overall pick or the number 2 overall pick? See,
I feel as though
the fact that we have to think about it.
Well, it's because it has nothing to do even with the name that they would select. But I very much feel
takes so much pressure off.
It takes so much pressure off because if you have to select number 2, you will always have the fallback option of being able to say, but we wanted that guy. If your guy doesn't hit and that guy does. So there's like that kind of optics on it, but it also depends. You look at the other franchises that have the possibility of ending up here, who are the people that need the immediate help? Again, I maintain Chet Holmgren is not an immediate impact player. He's somebody who's probably going to need a year of seasoning in the league. So like in Oklahoma City or a Houston or an Orlando would be more than happy to take a Chet. And if the Blazers land at number 2, great. Jabari's there for the taking. That's just my personal preference. I know a lot of people are Paolo Banchero, whatever. But, so if you see one of these franchises that has more of a long-term plan than what the Blazers are looking at, then they'll probably end up taking a Chet because they have time to grow them and mold them and do whatever. But I don't know. I'm perfectly fine with them being anywhere 1 through 3. 4 is where it gets a little dicey for me. Yeah. Because 4 is you are literally taking the last best player available.
So thanks for not answering the question, by the way.
I'm fence sitting all fucking day long.
You are. Is your ass getting sore at this point from sitting on those fence posts? I'm going to say it. I don't care if it makes you a coward. I would prefer them to get the number 2 pick. It takes the pressure off. I have no idea what the Blazers front office, what they're actually valuing. It makes it. Now, here's what I will say, though. So that's my answer. Lock it in, whatever. Like it's kind of, by the way, that's the wrong answer.
No, it's not. Technically, historically speaking, anytime that the Blazers have had the number 1 overall pick, it's been the number 2 pick that has hit.
Bill Walton?
Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan.
Bill Walton. That worked out.
Okay.
Got a title.
Okay, 33% of the time.
So, here's what I will say, though, is if the Blazers do get the number 1 overall pick, maybe this is put a different way. What if they did what Boston and Orlando did a number of years back, right? That worked out pretty well for Boston. They got Jason Tatum, or it was Boston. I don't know who they or who did they? No, Boston, Philly. Thank you. Boston, Philly with Markelle Fultz and Jason Tatum. I said the Magic because Fultz is now with the Magics, but Boston, Philly switched 1 and 3. How would you feel if the Blazers got the number 1 pick? If they really knew they didn't want, they were very content with any of those 3, right? And they swapped 1 for 3 and they got something else. And you know what I mean? I would not be opposed to that. I mean, it really depends on what your scouting thinks, what they're valuing, and then what your scouting thinks the rest of the league is valuing, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset with that is all I'm saying. If they do get the top pick, I wouldn't be super surprised if something like that happened, especially because they lost the Pelicans pick.
Yeah. So speaking of being upset, we're gonna wrap this up here with just a quick little bit of chatter, and that. So this past weekend, I went and saw Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. I'm a massive comic book nerd. My wife is a massive Marvel movie fan. My kid is a giant comic book nerd with me. We eat all this crap up. We watch all the freaking shows, all the movies, everything. There's not an ounce of anything that we've missed. And one of the things, and I'll say this without spoiling anything in the movie, so don't worry, anybody. You don't have to skip ahead or anything. One of the things I'm starting to notice with all the Marvel properties is that Marvel has an audience problem and not necessarily a movie problem, because everyone is expecting the next movie or TV show to do so much and set up so much that it's like, oh, this character is going to be in it. This character is going to be in it. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And that's all coming from fans and their wants and beliefs and hopes and what they think is going to occur. And then when it doesn't, they get mad and they get disappointed and they shit on a movie or shit on a TV show because what they built up in their head didn't happen, even though nothing gave you the inclination that it was going to happen outside of your hopes and your wants. And so I'm saying this as a way to tie into that. I don't think this offseason is going to make most Trailblazer fans happy because they've built up what they think this offseason should be. They've built up what they think this offseason can be. And I can damn near guarantee you that it is not going to be that for 99% of the fan base. You know, you're hearing names out there now, you know, Zach LaVine being linked to the team. And I see a lot of people that are on board with this Zach LaVine thing. But the only reason that they're on board with it is because of this now starting to become outdated notion that you need to build a team of all-stars and superstars and name brand players.
Eastern Conference all-star. Come on.
Yeah. And
CJ would have made a couple all-stars by now if he'd been playing in the East. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, swap Zach LaVine and CJ McCollum, and CJ McCollum would have had Zach LaVine's accolades. But there's this notion that you need all-stars, you need these other superstars, you need to team all these things up together, and I don't think that's going to happen. You know, Zach LaVine, you know, outside of the fact that if you thought Dame and CJ played horrible defense paired together, I would give you Zach LaVine and Damian Lillard. That would be worse. You'd have to give up Anthony Simons. I think you would also have to renounce Josh Hart, Yusuf Nurkic, and I already mentioned Joe Ingles, and goodbye trade a player exception because you can't do a sign-in trade and keep a TPE that immediately forces you into a different bracket. You lose your mid-level exception, biannual exception, all those things. Basically, you have taken your Swiss Army knife that Joe Cronin has and you get Zach LaVine, and you now have a spatula.
If Joe Cronin literally did... Hey, spatulas can be very versatile. If Joe Cronin literally did all of this just to get like a different version of CJ McCollum, it would be extremely disappointing. But what I'll say to your broader point is, I am just very interested. The Blazers have limited tools at their disposal, but not none. They're absolutely relying on lottery luck. I like what happens on Tuesday will determine whether Damian Lillard retires in Portland or not, period. It hinges on that. So, and that is not a great place to be by any stretch. It's not a great place to be. I would argue, though, that whatever the Blazers were doing before, clearly from Damian Lillard's own mouth, his own words during last offseason about the roster, that was also not going to keep him in Portland because he said so directly, right? Many times. And yes, ignore the Henry Abbott stuff. And he's about to ask out. Okay, fine. But he was pissed and he said so. So it's just, it's a weird spot. So I'm babbling, but like there's a non-zero chance that this offseason could be even better than we think. You never know. Like, it could be better. There could be someone becomes available. What's happening in Philly right now? How are you feeling about Tobias Harris? Because Doc isn't taking any responsibility. Sounds like they're going to re-sign James Harden. Joel Embiid's pissed off. They got to do something. Right? So do you like Tobias Harris? He might be available. Like, you don't know. Like, something could happen where someone's available and you don't know, and it just works out, and suddenly the Blazers look different. I don't know.
By the way, if anybody wants any of our Tobias Harris takes, feel free to scroll back. I don't know, 15, 20 episodes. We had plenty of them when we previously discussed the now post-back surgery Ben Simmons trade ideas. And why does it keep coming down? By the way, hold on. I had a text from a Blazer friend, buddy of mine, earlier today, and he said, how would you feel if the Blazers traded their lottery pick, regardless of where it lands, Yusuf Nurkic and cash to Philly for Joel Embiid?
Yes.
I said, I'll pick him up from the airport. Why would Philly do this?
I will pick him up on my back. I will piggyback him from PDX to I piggyback
him from fucking Philly. We'll trek across this country. We'll turn it into a buddy flick. But
do that. That's not going to happen, but you do it 100 times out of 100.
I do that in a heartbeat. And he was like, okay, I think the Blazers have a shot at that. I'm like, in what fucking universe are you?
No, they don't.
You? And he's like, well, I saw a thing on Reddit. I'm like, dear Lord, dude, you need to avoid the internet.
I saw a thing on Reddit.
But these are,
the tarot cards told me.
But these are the kind of things where, again, like, I don't think the fan base as a whole, like, the on paper stuff is gonna hit and it's gonna land. The only thing that I think that can change this is if the Blazers do end up top 1, top 2, top 3, whatever in the lottery. Kind of hard to fuck that up. There's no way that I can see them trading that pick. They'll take whatever best player available at that position if they get those odds. But like if they do maintain the 6th pick, I've long been on record that I'm like, that fine, explore trades, find these teams that have faltered, have failed, have whatever. Look at it, look at trading the pick. If not, take best available, as long as trade a fucking God, it's not another guard. We don't need any more again. But, you know, but I feel like the pieces that the Blazers need and that they're looking at getting are not necessarily like the biggest names. They're not the Joel Embiids. They're not the Zach LaVines. They're not, you know, insert whatever other player comes from disgruntled teams that get washed out. Oh, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, all that kind. But those are the ones that fans know the names of, can see the accolades, can see the awards, and all, you know, the first team, second team, third team, all NBA. And they're like, we want that guy. But it might be a Jeremy Grant and it might fucking work. We don't know. But the minute that something like that happens, Blazers drop down to 7th, they trade the 7th overall pick, get Jeremy Grant, guarantee there's just going to be this giant uproar. You know, and then going into the off season, if they aren't able to, you know, bring in another big splashy name, whatever, guarantee there's going to be an uproar. But just like I said with Cronin, that you can't judge him until later on, and he's had a chance to start putting more of these puzzle pieces together. You can't freak out at the minor moves and these minor details. And just because you want a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or whatever. I don't know. What are your thoughts? How do you think Blazers internet, Blazers Twitter, Blazers fan base, you know, what we base all these things on is, how do you think they're going to react leading up until the season starts?
It depends on the lottery, and it depends on what Cronin does. Obviously, that's not even really an answer to your question. You said earlier,
it's your turn to fess sense. There we go.
Yeah. No, you said earlier, I kind of agree. It feels like whatever people want to have happen is not going to be what ends up happening, and therefore people will be unhappy just because there is no real clear path. And you're working with a really tight timeline with Damian Lillard. We're not in the middle of a rebuild right now. Okay. Like, this would be different if it were, okay, we're stripping the cupboards down, and maybe that is what happens in a few years. Unfortunately, it might be what we're talking about sooner rather than later. We don't know. So I think people will be generally unhappy unless the Blazers do get a top pick. And even then, it's like, I think the most divisive person. So here's the Blazers getting a top pick and picking Chet Holmgren. You have people like me who are very happy about that. I actually think he will be an impact player defensively year one, maybe not on offense, but I think that someone like that, I mean, his instincts to block people, like funnel them where he wants them to go and get up there. He's very mobile, blah, 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 all the things. So, but I do think if they draft,
can play with another big center, just like he did with Drew Timme. So that kind of lends itself to a fit with Nurk, yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada. I'm rambling. I don't know. There's just too many unknowns. Talk to me after the lottery. I think so I really do feel, though, and I know it is a hot take, if the Blazers don't get a top 4 pick, it's going to be bleak. I don't know. I don't know what they don't have any flexibility. I just don't know what you can do. Like, if you get a top pick, like you said, you could trade it, you could develop somebody. Like, if they don't get a top 4 pick, I don't know. Which unfortunately is the most likely outcome. You know, I mean, that's the bummer, but oh well. So we'll see.
Send in the good luck.
Talk to me after the lottery.
Send in Dame. Yeah. Let's see if Dame can hit another shot for us.
Come on, Dame. Anything else?
No, nothing. I think both of us are way too busy during our week between my coaching of soccer practices and soccer games and work and your schooling and your now different work schedule. We won't be bringing you an immediate post-draft lottery coverage.
Wait
breakdown.
A minute. Hold on. If the Blazers get a top 3
if they get a top
pick,
if they get a top 3 pick, I'll still be at the bar and I'll podcast video that live.
That's what I was gonna say. We should jump on. Yeah.
Me. Yeah.
We should jump on Zoom, even if it's 10 minutes, we should do something and be like, blah, 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 blah. So let's commit to doing that. Other than that, you might not hear from us. We can do
that at least. Yes.
For
but,
sure.
If anybody wants the detailed breakdowns, point you in the directions of, I know you and I are big Mike Richmond Locked On Blazers podcast. Guarantee you I almost went with radio show. No, I guarantee you, Danny and Sprague, they'll have something breaking it down.
Jack Ramsey's Holy Backboard's going to have something.
Yep. You want the minutia, go to all those other places.
There are a lot of good podcasts out there.
We'll take our time, sober up, or finish sobbing our tears of sadness and probably sometime near the tail end of then next week we'll get together and bring you guys. But please, as much as if you love us, don't come scrolling or messaging us or bugging us about like, why haven't you guys given your opinion yet? Well, we're either still sobering up or we're still trying to figure out how to make it spin it to be happy.
If they get bumped down to 9, you may not ever hear from me again. Just kidding.
We just delete days. Everything.
The feed is gone. Yeah, it's just dead. That's it. All right. Well, if you want to reach out to us, you can. You can do it at Like the Blazers on Twitter. WeLikeTheBlazers.com is a website that we have. You can find him at The Witty Ryan. You can find me at Golden PDX, and that's about it. Until next time, please, like Ryan said, send all your lucky charms in, your rabbit's feet, your 4-leaf clovers, whatever it is, for Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific is the draft lottery, which will determine whether or not Damian Lillard retires a Blazer. Wah! It's a big deal. Tune into that. Tune into us next time. Appreciate you, and go Blazers.
Go Blazers.